part of the city where the lights grow dim. Grit and grind, every inch, every rim. From the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit I am, report let the games begin.
We are back. Okay, so Kyle and I just talked about, for 30 minutes there about how the Tigers are playing this perfectly with their young core. Like, this team is so young and so exciting. I think I texted you about, this is the most excited and hopeful I've been about the Tigers in a long time. And it got me thinking, which team here in Detroit, out of the Pistons, Tigers, Red Wings, and Lions, do I feel the most confident for the future? In both, near future, but also into years 3, 4, 5 years down the line from here, based on talent, age, money, position, salary, all that stuff. What do I feel most comfortable and most excited for? So I thought it would be fun if we rank just obviously 1 through 4, 1 being the best, 4 being the worst situation as it relates to our young core nucleus. So let's do this kind of similar to how we did a few weeks ago when we broke down the Lions position groups as they started training camp. We're just going to start with our number 4 spot, meaning out of the 4 major sports here in Detroit, they have, in our opinion, the worst young core. I feel like we have to have the same number 4 here.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I think before we touch on our beloved Red Wings, I just want to preface it young core. Obviously, young is pretty subjective. What the hell is young? For me, I'm looking at it, if you're 25, maybe 26 years old and younger, for me, that's still young. The bar changes a little bit depending on sport, right? Mm-hmm. Hockey, a lot of times, you're spending time in the AHL. You're not coming up to a little later. Football, a lot of times you're drafted at 22, 23. Obviously, baseball could be different. So young it's subjective, but I think your young core when you see it.
For sure. It's one of those things when you see them. But in a sense, in the back of my mind, part of the young core, it's impossible to not think about the minor league system and whether you're talking about the Grand Rapids Griffins or, the Tigers, AA and AAA, the prospects that they have. And because that's, in my mind, that's hard to separate our young core when you have, top guys coming in too. So this is all subjective. I'm kind of going off of basically guys that I don't personally think that they're in their prime yet. They're playing well and they're excelling and they're not even in their prime yet. It's kind of where I'm going off of here.
Yeah. Or I would say very beginning of prime. That's yes. kind of the cutoff. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So number 4, you already mentioned, got to be the Red Wings, right?
Bury the lead a little bit, but Red Wings. I mean, the core. There is a core. I'm not going to say it's worse in the league. We do have some talent. I mean, Lucas Raymond is incredible. He's 24 years old. He's damn near our top scorer. You got Mo Seider, tremendous young defenseman in this league. He's probably going to win a Norris at some point, or at least he has a pretty decent chance. And so that's pretty incredible when you're a young defenseman. He has that type of ceiling. Simon Edvinsson, again, young, a little bit younger even. Still very solid young defenseman. You're throwing in a Marco Kasper as well. ASP. Emmett Finney is super young, but he's shown flashes already in his first season, his rookie season. The core has some depth, but in general, stacking up against the rest of, not only the rest of the league, but the Lions and the Tigers and Pistons, it's not nearly as good. I mean, the future is, I'm not going to say it's bleak. It has some talent, but it's just not as good of a future as the rest of the Detroit sports teams, in my opinion.
100%. And hand up, this might be because we've been very transparent about this. The Red Wings and the NHL is my least watched sport. So being able to compare it to a lot of the other young cores in this sport is a little more difficult for me. So maybe that's just an unfortunate side effect of why I would put them at number 4. But I think you said it perfectly. I think we have great pieces. I think you have, in my mind, a top 2 in your young core in Mo, in Lucas Raymond. And then after that, then you have a bunch of guys that okay, we see the potential. These guys could end up being franchise leaders in Marco Kasper, in Emmett Finney, in, Simon Edvinsson. But I think I just need to see a little bit more from those guys in order to feel the confidence to add them into that kind of tier number 1 for me, and that Mo and Lucas are absolutely in. We have, good goalie play with the Griffins, and so there's a lot of young guys that should hopefully will be able to showcase and be part of that moving forward. But we got to figure out where they kind of fit. So I think I'd be curious to see when we put this out on social media what everyone else thinks. If it's kind of a consensus, Red Wings are number 4. Because I could see some hockey heads maybe arguing that because of the unfair advantage of having a minor league system and like being like, well, yeah, we got these guys though that are great prospects. Maybe some hockey heads would think that the Red Wings are number 3 instead of number 4. But yeah, we're both in lockstep there. At least for us, Red Wings are number 4 for sure.
So yeah, moving right on. This is where it does get hard for me. These two sports, the windows are just so different. I am going to put the Detroit Lions in my 3 spot. It's just that like careers are so much shorter in football. I think that makes your window like just that much harder. And like your young core in like 2 years, those guys like might be like somehow past their prime. Football it's just such a different beast. The landscape just changes so much more for me. And so that's like one reason I am going to put the Lions at my 3 spot here, but I will say just night and day difference between the Lions and the Red Wings for me. You look at just the absolute studs that we have at their age. I mean, you got Jahmyr Gibbs at 24. He's already like, best running back in the league. He's insane. 3-time Pro Bowler, 49 touchdowns so far in his career. Like, I mean, it's absurd, man. He could do it all. You got Penei Sewell, also basically the best at his position, if not the best, right tackle, left tackle. He's just incredible. Brian Batch, coming off an injury, still one of the best safeties in the league. You have Sam Laporta, who, up and down, a little bit of a down season with an injury, still, touted as a top 5 tight end in the league, fringe top 5. Got guys like Jameson Williams, even Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know if you can even put him in the young core because he is such a veteran on our team right now, but still just 26 years old. I would throw him in there at like the very edge of the young core. Hutch, I don't know how I've gotten this far in this rant without even talking about Hutch. Again, a guy who he's certainly a veteran on this team, but still he's relatively young and one of the best at his position. As I'm saying this, I'm kind of almost a little bit pissed I have them at 3 and not higher, but I already said it, and so yeah, Lions are 3 for me.
That was a hell of a roller coaster for me because I didn't think you were going there. B, then I was starting to think like, oh shit, maybe he is right. Maybe the Lions should be number 3. And then as you were going through the Lions, you convinced me back that I was right and that I think the Lions aren't number 3. And so I just went up and down and back and forth because I'm going to disagree. And this pains me because we're a Lions first podcast. We love the Lions, but I have a special love affair with the Pistons. But I got to put the Pistons at 3, and it's an impossible task because, like we said, there's so much subjectivity to this, and there's so many different variables at play. I think the Pistons have the best overall player on their team in Cade Cunningham. Like, he is a true MVP. I think Cade is the best athlete in Detroit, but I think then is like a little bit of a drop off, and that's why I'm putting the Pistons at 3. And it pains me to do so. Cade is incredible. He's going to win an MVP in his career. Asar Thompson is going to win a Defensive Player of the Year, and I think our core there is Asar, Cade, and Jalen Duren. Those are your 3 core guys, and obviously it's a lot less than like the Lions, like you just mentioned. But I think Cade is the number
only
1
5
guy.
starters versus
that's what I'm saying. So it's so
ball. Like,
it is hard. It is hard to, how do you weigh that? And I would even say say Asar had more of an offensive game and like was a true All-NBA team player, then I think they would leapfrog my next team there, and that would put them above because Cade's that good. You get like one more guy that is like head above all the other players. Like Asar is incredible defensively, but his offensive limitations just hold me back from like saying how good of a core player he is. Jalen Duren is a really good traditional big man, but his playoff performances and his lack of like any sort of play away from the basket when it matters really holds me back as to why he wouldn't be higher on this list. So I gotta go Pistons with my number 3 overall core. It's close. I agree with you. Like there's a cutoff. Like the Red Wings were easily 4, and then it starts getting really close. So,
yeah, just for me having the Pistons at 2. I mean, you pretty much just explained it, but just you got 5 guys that are starting. Obviously, like bench is important too, but like for me, just having a true MVP caliber, and you already mentioned it, but having Cade, true MVP, and then a guy with just such high defensive ceiling, Asar Thompson, who like is still only 23 years old, and like that's where I was talking about, just the window of opportunity in a sport like basketball. It's just so different than a sport like football, where like football, like you get in the league at 23, and by like 26, 27, you could be out already. I mean, it's just so hard on your body. Basketball's just not that way. Like Asar Thompson is already, going into his 4th season now, still only 23 years old. He is still getting so much better every year. It's the difference in sports for me. And so because you have 3 guys, and I am putting Duren, firmly in there as well, the quote unquote big 3 of young talent for me. Just having a big three there that are all under the age of 25, it just screams like elite young talent right now. There's definitely a drop off as far as like depth, where like I'm certainly not sold on Ron Holland. I'm not necessarily sold on like Danis Jenkins. Both those guys are, 20, 21, and 25 respectively. But like I just think it's enough. Like Cade and Asar and Jalen Duren for me is slightly, edging. Pause. I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, slightly better than the Lions young core for me.
And yeah, and I get them at 2 because we just flip flop those because I have the Lions at 2 for a lot of the reasons you said, and it's unfair to the Pistons probably in my case because I think that the best overall player and for all the teams like I mentioned is Cade, but the Lions just have a better depth just because there's more positions to fill. What I consider the Pistons core of Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson, the Lions core, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, like you mentioned, up and down, but I still would put him in our young core, and he's still a top 5 at his position. I think Brian Branch, fully healthy, is obviously the top 3 at his position. I'm kind of a Kirby Joseph hater a little bit, but when healthy, he's still part of this young core. He's got the needs of a 50-year-old, but he's still a young player. Penei Sewell is obviously top of his position. Overall, we have more of the top players in their position for the Lions, and then obviously the Pistons do. And I think per capita, you kind of have to like get scientific with that in that regard of like to see how you kind of weigh those things out. That's why I'm going to put the Lions at 2. I think we had the most top 100 players comparatively.
And now I'm almost like I'm second guessing myself a little bit. Like in 5 years, when like all of these guys are going to be like into their prime, which team, the Lions or the Pistons, do you think is a better shot of winning a championship in that 5-year window? And for me, I think it's probably the Lions over the Pistons. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just contradicting myself.
It's a great point. And there is no right answer because, like I said, there's so much variety and so much variability that there is no right answer. So, okay. So then that leaves us with our number 1 best core, which makes sense as to why we, thought about this here and now with this young core that we have out there in the MLB field, that we have in the prospects farm. And again, that's a little bit unfair to teams like the Lions who don't have a prospect system, don't have a farm system. But number 1 young core got to be the Tigers. I mean, we mentioned this is the most excited I've been for a team, specifically the Tigers, in a long time. Just at the MLB, like I'm excited. You could split their farm system and their MLB roster, and I think probably both of them would still be above like the Red Wings in that like the MLB level. We talked about the young pitching core, guys that are still not in their prime yet, or still have their prime to look forward to. The Troy Meltons, the Jackson Jobe, who came back and looked really good. Kiter Montero's only like 25, 26 years old. He looks really good. And you look at the bats, the McGonagalls that look insane. The Dingler, like you already mentioned, he's 27 years old. He spent some more time in the minors, went through a full 4-year degree at Ohio State, but I would probably put him right at the edge of our core. Riley Green, up and down, but still a 3-time All-Star. Colt Keith is quietly doing a lot of good things. I feel like Colt Keith kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. That in itself is so young and such a great sign of what's to come. And that's not even looking at the guys that I would consider the minor league guy. Or Eduardo Valencia is kind of in there just because he still has just barely made his debut, but he looks really good. Max Clark, you can kind of put him in whatever camp you want. He looks really good and young and is performing. Air Hope, we talked about him. Obviously, he's number 25 in the MLB prospect list. Bryce Rainier, the shortstop we took in the draft last year, still at high A ball, but is the 35th overall prospect in the MLB. Looks really good. Josue Bersinho, already mentioned, 54 in MLB's prospect list. He just got promoted to AAA. Everyone's already calling for him to come up and take Torkelson's job at first base because River Ryan's been thrown into there. Like, you have all these guys that are just, again, you could split the minor league system and the MLB system and both have very, very promising young cores. That's not even mentioned. I believe last year, Troy Melton, and I'm actually going to look this up right now. Last year, Troy Melton, as a prospect for us, was Detroit's. Let me look at this real quick.
If memory serves, he was like maybe like a fringe top 10 prospect for
Troy
us.
Troy Melton last year, who we were mentioning, is easily the best pitcher in our rotation this year. He's one of the top pitchers in baseball right now. Troy Melton was our 13th overall prospect last year. Not 13th in the MLB, 13th in the Detroit Tigers system. So like I just went through all that major league talent, all the minor league talent of like our top 5 to 6 guys. Who knows if we have another Troy Melton in the teens somewhere in our system. Like it's so promising and so exciting, and we threaded the needle perfectly with the Tarek trade. easily number one for me.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The future's so bright for this team. This team's so young, just playing so well on pretty much every facet of the game. And then you still have a very solid minor league system that, like, yeah, we've promoted like Kevin McGonigal and Max Clark. Like, those guys were obviously the headliners. You got to, restock the cupboard. We did with the Tarek Skubal trade. We're kind of doing everything right now. And still in a win now mode. It's sweet to see, like you said, absolutely threaded the needle. Just one more shout out to Hao Yu Lee, 23 years old. He's just playing extremely well.
How can I forget him?
You did mention Jackson Jobe, still only 23 years old, former number 3 overall pick. I mean, I think we took him really high, right? So, yeah, man, it's a series of great drafting, but also it's a volume thing too, which is great because MLB prospects, they bust more than any other sport. You never truly know. You could have the diamonds in the rough, like your Troy Meltons. The volume alone, like, we don't need every single one of these guys to hit. We're just in such a good position right now. But yeah, you still, like you said, you have Zaire Hope and Bryce Rainier and Jose Briseño, River Ryan still like in your system. And so even though you did promote a lot of guys, your team's so young, you still have probably a top 5 farm system in the league. Future's bright, man. I mean, the Tigers are just in such a good position. Shout out to management there. Scott Harris. I mean, I'm not going to say he's been perfect, but he's been pretty damn good since arriving. So let's go Tigers, baby.